One of the things that Lizzy does a little bit different, or perhaps does a little bit different, is how we return parts to a supplier. We do not actually create a return purchase order in Lizzy until the vendor or the supplier has actually sent us our return our return invoice, which will have all the parts listed on it and the amounts that they have given us for those things. So what we do instead is we actually allow you to tell Lizzy that you're going to return the part, and then we hold on to that part until they have actually processed the return and given you the credit. And then you just go in and pick the parts that you're going to, that you got credit for, so that you can apply them to purchase orders. So it's a little bit of a delay between when you actually say you're going to return it and when they give you the credit. So what happens first is, right now I am in inventory and I've located an item, and I'm down here at the very bottom of the control for looking at an item, and we have the current stock quantity for this item in the system. Now, if you look here to the left of the bin location, there's a little green arrow, and if you click it, or if you point to it, it'll tell you return items. And if you click it, it'll ask you how many of these things you're going to return. So let's say that we're going to return 2 of these back to the supplier. This is Helmet House, and you just click the return items. And you're going to notice when I do this that the quantity down here has been reduced by 2, because the system has looked and said, okay, we're returning 2 of these and we're going to, go ahead and take them out of inventory. But the system hasn't actually taken them out of inventory. It's just taken them away from you being able to see them. It knows that they're still here. It's still in your costing. It's still in your books, and it holds on to all that stuff until you actually process the order. So the question becomes, okay, well, how do we do that? And you can do it from over here in process items, or you can actually go over to the purchase order section and do it over there. So it really doesn't make any difference. If you go to purchase order, accounting payables, you can process parts returns right here. So what you do is you choose the supplier, and then it gives you a list of all the parts, and this part had been returned before. There was one already over here. So what happens at this point, this is where we have now decided that we've got them in a box and we're about to send them back to the supplier. Now, it really is up to you whether you fill in tracking and RMA information. It's not required. It's just here for you to be able to do it. But probably one of the things that you do want to do is to say that you have shipped this thing back. And there's 2 reasons to do that. One is that this afternoon, I may have another one of these parts come in that I need to return back to the supplier as well. And if I have not told it to ship that I have shipped these parts back, then it's just going to come over here and increase this to 4. Well, obviously I only have 1 here now because I've sent 3 of them back earlier this morning. Well, now you've got kind of a mess trying to figure out what's here and what's not, and what have we already sent back to the supplier. So I would absolutely use the shipped box to keep up with the ones that you physically have returned to the supplier, so that you can, keep up with what's here and what's there. Now, at some point, you're going to have to process this return, and what that means is that the supplier has actually issued you a credit. They've given you an invoice number or credit memo number, whatever it is that they call it, for that particular credit. And that thing may be made up of 10 different parts. It may be made up of 10 different prices than what we actually, or cost that we actually have here, because Lizzy's just basically pulled the cost of the part and put it over here. This may not be what we actually get credit for. So what you're going to do at that point is simply come down through here, check the box for the one that you want to actually process, enter the cost for it, select all of the different parts that we're going to process, put in the invoice number that they've issued us the credit on, and then tell it to create the refund for the selected items. And that will actually go out and create a purchase order a credit receivable, and process it so that we can use it to pay on the next purchase order when we go to pay Helmet House in this example. So it does all of the paperwork and everything for you in the process, but it's just a cleaner way to deal with parts returns from your suppliers, just because of the way that they usually end up flowing back through.